And just like that, we're back, bringing you along in our second episode of the March Madness special. You can see the Auburn fans are fired up and happy, and the NCAA in general, which has kind of been the story of this entire college basketball season. They are proving why they've been the best conference all year in March when it matters most. We have a bunch of stuff to get into, including winners and losers, March Madness edition. You're going to want to stick around for that. That's coming up right at the top of the show here. We'll recap the entirety of the first round of 64, round of 32. Talk, I guess, a little bit about some Sweet 16, but we want to save that for the midweek. We're going to get a whole preview of the Sweet 16 Elite Eight, and we'll wrap that show up with some MLB talk as opening day is just thrown in the middle of this madness that we call March. So, jam-packed show as always, winners and losers, March Madness edition, coming right up after a word from SeatGeek.
Ladies and gentlemen, the best month on the sports calendar is finally here. Say it with me. This is March. And the only place to go for every NCAA tournament game is SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Views from Section 400 podcast. We love SeatGeek. We use it every time we buy tickets. The best part, if you're a first-time user, use code VIEWSFROM400 at checkout. That's VIEWSFROM400 at checkout for $20 off your first purchase. That's a free beer on us, a free popcorn, a free hot dog. If you're going to Mercedes-Benz Superdome, there might be like a free 5 meals for you and your family. Not Citi Field, unfortunately. But hey, $20 off your first purchase. Views from 400 for every NCAA tournament game. Hopefully you're watching Auburn in the Sweet 16, Final Four, Elite Eight, and eventually the Natty. Maybe some spring training baseball too. Code Views from 400. SeatGeek, your best night ever is waiting.
Thanks to SeatGeek. As always, like I said, we will hit some winners and losers, do a little March Madness edition on that one. There were a lot of winners this weekend, and obviously the same amount of losers if you're talking about games that were played. But we'll kick it off to our guy Jack, who won the week in the who won the weekend, I should say.
Yeah, Matt,
narrowing it down.
Before I get into my winners and losers, I just got to say, great point. This has been a very competitive tournament. Every team that's played so far, we're the combination of all of them. It's 500 right now. We've got I think it's 32 wins and 32 losses. So good on the field.
Good observation by me, right?
People say these are the best teams in the country. All I'm seeing is a 500 record. I don't know what's going on.
All I'm seeing is a 500 record from this bracket, but maybe the committee got it right. Maybe they'll do better next year.
Maybe.
But so my winner of the week, Brian, I hope you like this one. You might not, but I'm giving it to Coach Cal. Coach Calipari, he has been coaching his butt off this weekend. First time with this Arkansas team, first year in his, rebuild with this program. And they're already reaching new heights, knocking off Bill Self in Kansas, knocking off Rick Pitino and number 2 St. John's, absolutely dismantling the Big East with that one. You got to give him a lot of credit. I mean, Calipari is going in there with debatably a less talented squad. It is SEC players, so they're pretty good. But they're a 10 seed. They're knocking off 7 seed Kansas, 2 seed St. John's, and some legendary coaches too. So I really got to give Calipari his flowers here. Especially before next week. Next game when he's got to go play Texas Tech and JT Toppin. I might not be able to give him his flowers after that game.
Yeah, I'm so excited we get to root for Arkansas, led by John Calipari, as the biggest underdog in this tournament. Calipari, the known underdog. Gotta love it. I love this. It's so much chalk. I love this tournament.
Was that like sarcasm?
Yeah, I guess it's hard to come off on a podcast, but yes, that's sarcasm. I'm not excited about Arkansas being the lone double-digit seed in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to give it to, kind of allude. I was going to touch on Ole Miss in mine, and I thought they were the lowest seed or tied with. I think there's one other 6 seed slipping my mind at the moment, but I look down, I see Arkansas as the double-digit seed. I was like, holy smokes, that's our double-digit Sweet 16 we get this year. I guess it makes sense. Calipari, he has the talent, but I was not expecting them to be. There's always a double-digit seed getting to the Sweet 16. Arkansas was not on my radar.
The preseason number 4 in the SEC is our Cinderella.
Yeah.
Well, the preseason number 4, and I didn't have them as my loser, but we can touch on them because I know Jack did, and we're jumping conferences. But Kansas and Bill Self, they were the only. I think they were preseason number 1, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
The only ever preseason number 1 to not make it out of the first round. Ever. That's never happened.
Well, it did. It was also Kansas. In 2005, that's the only other time it's happened.
Was that the other time? I thought they said it never happened before. But either way, I guess they're the only team that done it. But pretty incredible stat. Whether it happened once before or never before, you shouldn't be the preseason number 1 and not make it out of the first round. I guess it would have been worse if they didn't make the tournament in general. So they have that going for them.
Yeah, and who do you want to pin that on? I mean, Bill Self's a great coach, but they're preseason ranked number 1. That means you have the talent there. Hunter Dickinson, just an absolute collapse of a career we've seen over these years in college since the Michigan days. But you want to put it on him? You want to put it on the coaching? Like, who do you put this on? Kansas just absolutely flopped this season.
It's without a doubt on the players. They have graduates on the team, seniors on the team. Like you just said, Hunter Dickinson, it feels like he's a 10-year college vet, how many times I've seen him get trotting out there year after year. So I put it on the players. Look, Bill Self maybe has a part or he does have a part in the coaching, but maybe he has a part in the blame. But at some point, when you have this much experience out there on the court in March, everybody with experience in March, I just think it really falls on those guys who, again, like I said, I don't think they started a freshman. It was all experienced guys on their starting 5, including Hunter Dickinson and Zeke Mayo. So, I don't know how much you can put on Bill Self, but those players have a big blame, in my opinion.
Yeah, we talk about Hunter Dickinson being 40 years old. DeJuan Harris is like 50 years old. He's been there for a decade. And then also AJ Storr coming over from Wisconsin, got a huge NIL bag. He was non-existent. So they just never clicked. Very weird team.
Yeah. Not a single time this season. It feels like since the get-go they were fighting an uphill battle, and they just never got up that hill.
And we see this in college from time to time of you kind of put a mix and match of players together and the chemistry just doesn't really click right away. And it's a short turnaround. I know they play 30 games before the tournament, but that can be a short turnaround to get ready to go and go on a run in March and build the chemistry. So even though they do have a lot of experience, I guess the experience wasn't there of them all playing together, which played a part in their historic downfall.
Yeah, and last thing I want to touch on, just to finish up the Calamari winner, Coach Calipari, he's 14-10 against Pitino in college now, 9-2 in their last 11 matchups, and that's dating back to when Calipari took the job in 2010 with Kentucky.
Yeah, this was the grudge match for them in the tournament too. He's 3-2 on Pitino in the tourney, and I don't know if they'll ever meet again.
They'll probably both die trying.
I wasn't looking, and we'll get to the Big East in just a bit here, so I'll save my thought. But Brian, hit us with a winner here for who won your tournament weekend.
Yeah, before I do that, I'd just like to say one quick thing, and Jack, feel free to join in. I said it's great to be in Auburn Tigers. Said it's great. To be in Auburn Tigers. It's great. To be. Okay, well, they're not my winner, but they are my honorary winner because we made it. We made it past the first weekend, first time since 2019. I'll get to that in a bit. I'm so excited about Auburn basketball. What I'm not so excited about is the chalk, and that's why chalk is my winner of the first weekend of March Madness. We didn't see any upsets. We saw McNeese. I'm happy for you there, Matt. We saw Drake, who, of course, the one year I don't pick them, they decide to upset Missouri. But it was a lot of chalk, and it was the first time since 2017, all of the top 4 seeds won their first round game. They went 16-0. And it was all blowouts. The only double-digit wins were Texas A&M by 9 over Yale. That game was never really that close. Yale made a run. And then Bama by 9 over Robert Morris. That one was fun. I was really rooting for Robert Morris, but then Bama kind of pulled away at the end. Maybe I guess I could throw Colorado State in there as an upset, but they were favored after Tyrese Hunter got hurt for Memphis. So does that really count? It's the first tournament since 2007 We haven't seen an 11 seed or higher in the Sweet 16, which could be good down the road here, but I don't know. I always like to see one.
Yeah, I think we'll see some good basketball down the stretch for sure. All the 1 seeds still there, despite a couple scares. All the 1 seeds still there, and like you said, Arkansas being the high or the lowest seed, the highest seed. I always mix that up. Either way, Arkansas at 10 is the team, and how much can we really say that they struggled in a really tough SEC? They have the talent and they have the elite head coach, John Calipari. I mean, they're just as good as anybody else as far as I'm concerned. Rolling down the stretch here in the Sweet 16.
You know what, Brian? I know you're not happy about the chalk here, but I will say one thing. At least we're going to get some premier matchups down the stretch, some matchups we've been looking forward to seeing all season. I don't want to see no offense, Matt. I know I really don't want you to take offense to this, but I don't want to see McNeese in the Final Four. You know what I mean? I had them winning their first round game. I even had them winning their second round game. But, seeing them in the Final Four, not too excited about that. I'm happy that the better teams are still winning, man. We've got like Auburn and Florida, Duke, Houston, Bama, Tennessee, all these amazing teams still alive, still all going to be competing at the end of March and early April.
I think the two that really annoy me are we saw St. John's go down to Arkansas. I wish Omaha could have played like they did in that first half and maybe given St. John's enough there. And then Michigan State has not looked good at all. And Bryant gave them a run for their money in that first round game. So I wish we could have seen like these teams that haven't looked as elite. And who knows? Michigan State is Tom Izzo, so they might figure it out down here, but they don't look like a national championship team. So those kind of upsets where the team doesn't look that great. I just want to see one. A lot of these teams left, I could argue, maybe 7. I think could realistically win a national championship. So there's room where those other ones could have fallen.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like it's always going to be tough because we're just talking about the whole in first round here, but we're mixing our recap with winners and losers. So let's get through the winners and losers here so we can jump in because there's a bunch more games I want to get to. And I wanted to almost jump to the next one, but we have to finish up our segment here. Brian, we appreciate your winner of the week there. Jack, did you have one more comment before I jump into mine?
Oh, I wanted to get into my loser as a direct rebuttal to Brian's winner, actually.
That's fine. I can just skip my winner of the week.
No. You do your winner and loser back to back, all right? Do your winner and loser back to back after this. Brian,
that works.
My loser of the week is going to be the haters. Anybody who's hating on this tournament for too many SEC teams being in there, for there's no madness, it's all chalk, for the people calling for a travel on Derek Queen's game-winning layup the other night. Just stop. Just stop and enjoy the basketball. All right? Like, wasn't it travel?
I'm not saying rattled about SEC, but people are rattled about not enough madness.
People are rattled about. Look, I mean, this is me and my views coming straight from Twitter. What I'm seeing people harp on right there. Everyone's calling for Derek Queen. That was a travel. No, it wasn't. Shut up. Enjoy it. It was a great finish. You really want to see a call right there and that basketball game? Like, anybody who wants a travel right there, I want a foul. Like, shut up. All right? Play basketball.
I think it was a travel, but I agree it shouldn't have been called. Like, they never call that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're not calling that gather step at the very end of the game right there.
I'm with you there. Like, I don't want to see Colorado State lose to Florida by 30 points. I want to see them play Maryland and the Crab Five try to beat them.
Well, we can't have it both ways. If they called the travel, then everybody's up in arms about the refs getting involved at the end of the game. The refs can't make that call.
Exactly.
Third. So
exactly.
What would you rather have, the game winner or the refs make a call that everybody hates to see?
That's what I'm saying. Give me the game winner. Let the boys play.
Yeah, I think we're all agreeing. I'm just saying it was a travel, but you can't call it.
I got confused there because Brian was saying that's a travel. I thought he maybe wanted the refs to get involved there.
No, I'm saying, like, by the letter of the law, that was a travel, but I don't have any issue with them not calling it a travel.
Yeah, I agree. Just like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But to those people, to the people saying not enough madness, like I said, there's going to be some good games coming up. Let's just enjoy that, all right? SEC teams, Look, it was the best conference in the league this year. All right, that's why there's still 7 of them left among the 16 teams left. It's a good conference. There's a lot of SEC teams. Try not to care about that, right? They're good basketball teams. Just enjoy the basketball.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with the SEC kind of, having their one shining moment. But if you look at it, there are the good teams, and there's still other conferences in it. Like I think the Big Ten is represented well. The ACC, are they in it still, or they kind of have
It's
they just have Duke,
and then
yeah.
four Big 10, 4 Big 12, and then the
Yeah,
7.
so the Big Ten and the Big 12 is there. Like, I mean, it's not like it's total. It's SEC heavy, but is this total outright domination by the SEC? I don't think so.
No. I mean,
we also saw 7 SEC teams lose in the first weekend.
Yeah,
right. So
exactly.
I mean, this is still pretty wide open. Is it favored for an SEC team to maybe win it all? Of course, but I think it's still wide open.
Yeah, I guess 6 lost, and then Texas went down the first 4.
Yeah.
So
I saw you trying to do the math there, Jack.
Yeah. Well, Texas went down and got their coach fired as well. So that's a whole different headline they got going on over there.
People, I don't think it's going to happen because Duke just looks way too freaking good right now, but people would be so upset if it was an all SEC Final Four.
It could happen. I don't know if we'll get into BYU and Bama.
Yeah, it could, but let me wrap up the winter segment here, and it is on the SEC and the boys who I kind of highlighted way in the beginning of the season. I don't know if you guys remember that. I don't think I threw them in as a sleeper, but I did talk about them a little bit. And it's Ole Miss, led by their coach Chris Beard, who I think was at Tech before going to Ole Miss, and.
Yep.
Has turned the program around to where they need to be. I feel like a lot of people kind of forgot about them in the SEC. They were good, but not good enough. And I think that was the best way to put it. They ended up a 6th seed in the tournament, which is solid, but not like those strong SEC teams that you're seeing at the top. And just nobody really had them on the radar. They held off a stingy UNC team, which we all thought was going to go on this magic run after looking electric in the first 4. Ole Miss shuts them down. And then they beat Iowa State, who, again, offense was always in question. I don't really like their coach, that TJ guy who looks like a bodybuilder. He rubs me the wrong way for whatever reason.
That shirt is way too tight.
Way too tight, man. There's something going on there that they, move on. But, look. They knocked off Iowa State, and now they're a 6th seed, which has a shot to do great things against Michigan State. I think they will absolutely give Michigan State all they can handle and maybe some more and go and knock them off. And setting up an Auburn, Ole Miss Elite 8 game, everybody hates the SEC.
Let's not overlook Michigan. They still got to get through Michigan.
Yeah, we got to beat Michigan, and Ole Miss will have to beat Michigan State. I would be pretty pissed off if that Big Ten matchup ended up happening. But
yeah, watch it be the Big Ten matchup instead of everybody has their eyes on it being an all SEC or at least SEC Elite 8 out of what would that be, the South region? But could the Big Ten have other ideas?
I think, I really do like the way Ole Miss is playing basketball right now. If we end up seeing them next round, they always say it's tough to beat a team 3 times in a single season. Well, we've done that, and we would have to go and try to beat them for a 4th time this season and go 4-0 against Ole Miss. So in that way, I almost would rather see Michigan State there.
Yeah, I'm happy you mentioned that because, I'm annoyed I didn't pick Ole Miss into my Sweet 16. Because when you really look at them as a team, these are the guys that should tell you the SEC was that much better than everyone else this year. They were 4-4 against Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, Bama, Kentucky, and Missouri. Their 4 losses were 3 to Auburn and 1 to Florida, the 2 1 seeds. They beat everyone else. They lost to A&M and Mississippi State, which whatever. But they beat Bama, they beat Tennessee, they beat Kentucky. So all those teams hovering around the 2-3 line, we saw Ole Miss beat. So they're the middle of the pack in that SEC, but they only really lost to the top teams in the conference. So I'm annoyed I didn't see this coming.
Yeah,
I'm annoyed too, Matt. You got to give you your flowers here. You have been saying since I think the preseason, maybe it was like the first week or whenever we started talking about college basketball, you were definitely on Ole Miss is going to be a good team this year, and here they are making their run in March, baby.
Well, I don't want to say they're the opposite of Kansas, but they did the same kind of thing of Kansas, of just went to the transfer portal and said, we're going to live and die by the portal. And it worked out for them. Got a couple guys from some mid majors, went to some other, Power Five schools, put a team together. Chris Beard led the charge, and the rest is history. They're headed to the Sweet 16 to take on Tom Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans. So we'll see what they can do in the Sweet 16 and beyond. And yeah.
That UNC game, the final score was close, but they also like shit pumped them too. So they've just run through this tournament so far.
Yeah, they really have. And, we'll see. I mean, is this their biggest test, Michigan State? I don't think Iowa State really was a test. I really don't.
No. Yeah.
I don't think with the offense that they displayed, Michigan State should definitely be a bigger test.
Which is weird, dude. We see Iowa State during the year like not have a bad offense, and then they get to the tournament, and then it's like their offense is in question.
The Gilbert injury just killed them.
Yeah, right. Wasn't he their leading scorer?
He was up there, but he's also like their primary ball handler. Besides Lipsy, it's him and Lipsy running the offense.
Yeah.
I didn't think it'd be that bad, but like they just looked terrible.
Yeah, I mean, Ole Miss, Iowa State. I mean, to be fair, they put up 78 points, almost 80 points. Like the defense just didn't defense for them, which is what they're supposed to be known for.
Well,
we didn't see it done.
This regional is going to be a lot of fun. Tickets for this regional are so much higher than all the other regionals because you have Auburn in their backyard and then the two Michigan teams that travel well. It's going to be a fun region.
Fun weekend in Atlanta, right?
In Atlanta. I was looking for tickets the other day. It was like $600.
They're only going up.
Yeah, they're only going up. Brian, why don't you hit us with a little loser real quick? Jack hit us with one, and then I'll wrap us up here, and then we can really dive into the rest of this second round.
Yeah, you guys know how much I love my stats and my streaks. My loser is the streaks. We had a lot end on the first weekend of March Madness. I already mentioned a couple. We had Auburn finally get the monkey off their back and get to the second weekend for the first time since 2019 when they made it to the Final Four. Hopefully they make it a little further this time around. Matt, you mentioned Kansas. First AP poll #1 preseason to lose in 19 years since Kansas did it in 2005. So it's not a great stat if you're Kansas. Things also happen in threes, so it might happen again in another couple of decades here.
Yeah.
Jeez. Who was the coach of Kansas back then?
That would be right around when Bill Self started. I don't know if it was him, though.
That's what I'm wondering. If he has the title for the two times that's happened, that is that's a legendary asterisk next to his coaching career.
Yeah. And then we had Maryland make their first Sweet 16 since 2016. And I believe that was Melo Trimble's team that made it that far.
I think it was also Bill Self. It was his second year at Kansas.
Oh, God.
That's tough.
That's so tough.
And then the last streak we had end, which was the saddest one for me to see. My Zags, my Final Four pick, their streak of 9 straight Sweet 16 appearances ends. It was the longest since Duke did it in 1998 to 2006. The longest now, Houston, who beat them. They have 6 straight Sweet 16 appearances.
Shout out Kelvin Sampson.
Don't say Kevin. Don't call him Kevin Sampson. But, I mean, tough seeds for Gonzaga. At the same time, whatever. They're a waste of a spot. They never win it all. So who cares? They've been going all this way all the time, and they never win it all. So good. Get them out of there. They weren't going to win it all. You want to talk about streaks? Their streak of never winning it all would have continued.
And it has continued. Yeah, Brian, I don't know why you're so upset about this. Your Pacific Northwest will never win another title is still alive yet another season.
Yeah,
I don't know if did we qualify Gonzaga?
Gonzaga counts. You said college team.
Yeah.
So Gonzaga would have counted.
Oh, yeah.
But like you said, Matt, I can pick them to go to the Final Four. I don't have to worry about them winning it all. They just got to get to the Final Four. They're not going to win it all.
You don't. They're not going to win it all. They're not going to do it. Mark Few's probably like the guy who deserves the title out of any coach that's like left standing, right?
Maybe BP.
Hughes had more success for longer.
Yeah,
I think I might be a little biased there.
that's definitely biased. But let me wrap up our winners and losers here with the Big East crash out. We see that conference, and we talked about it, right? This conference just wasn't as good all year. We saw what Nova did. They didn't even make the tournament and having all those games of blowing leads and this and that. So I watched this conference well enough. And a lot of people were very high on St. John's. They steamrolled through a bad conference. They got a 2 seed. Everybody was Rick Pitino, Final Four, this, that, and the third. They have a great team. They steamrolled through a bad conference. So, yeah, no Big East teams left. Pretty poor showing. St. John's as a 2 seed goes down. And the last 10, I saw this, and again, Brian, you are the stat guy, so fact check me if I'm wrong, but I think the last 10 tournaments, the Big East has won 5 of them. And now we go into a Sweet 16 with no Big East left.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Nova has 2, UConn has 3, and I think that's...
Is UConn 14?
Yes, with Kevin
Yeah,
Ollie or Kevin whatever.
Maybe you got to go 11. I don't know how that... But
yeah, I don't know. This would be
since that 2014.
year 11. This would be year 11. We don't know the titles yet.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
But either way, Big East won half of them. We're going to the Sweet 16. They don't have one team representing that conference. Shows you the fall off. It shows you the absolute success and domination that they've had over the last 10 years into the absolute fall off that they've had. And, Jay Wright really being the only guy that's left, right? I mean, Dan Hurley's there. Rick Pitino's now coaching St. John's. They still have some heavy hitters that are coaching. Ed
Cooley's he moved schools, but he's still in there.
Ed Cooley's still trickled into Georgetown. Brian, you guys might be neighbors.
Yeah, we're pretty close. But just real quick on St. John's, the whole worry with them was will they be able to score once you get to the tournament? And we saw their best player, R.J. Lewis, shoot 3 for 17, get benched. And the team shot 28%, 2 from 3. You're not going to win any game like that.
No, that was a very, very tough showing from him. And you simply cannot have your best player go 3 for 17 and expect to win a ball game in March. It's tough. I think, look, and I saw Pitino getting grilled for this. How do you sit your best player in an elimination game? But he was so bad. He missed everything. Like, you got to bench him.
Yeah, it sometimes gets to a point where you have nothing else to lose. You keep the guy out there. You have a big enough sample size to know that he isn't hitting anything. So, look, that's a experienced coach trying to make a move to really a last-ditch effort to save the season is what that move was. And damned if he did, damned if he didn't. I don't think leaving R.J. Lewis in would have saved him either. So he just was trying to switch things up and save the season, like I said.
They also lost Kadari Richmond. He fouled out early in the second half, and I think he's their best player. R.J. Lewis is their best scorer, which is probably why he's their most important player because they can't score. But Richmond's their ball handler. They're one of their best rebounders. He runs the offense, and when you lose him in a game where you're struggling to score points as it is, it's just the perfect, the worst storm for the Red Storm. All happened.
Yeah, it absolutely was. So we see the Big East crash out. The SEC takes over with the most teams left, and the Big 12, which I think is a little surprising, and the Big 10 holding their weight at 4 teams each. No.
Yeah, I think the Big 12 has been a better conference all season long than the Big 10, but I think the Big 10, you could sell me on, they're overachieving for what they've been putting on in March so far.
Yeah, I think I just didn't think, and again, you could say maybe kind of an easy path for them, but I wasn't really expecting Texas Tech to do anything crazy. Houston, I really believed with Brian that they were going to go down to Gonzaga. So you can talk about them. BYU, Brian, I know you had them going on a run, and I know we liked them during the year, but BYU has been proven frauds in the tournament. So that's kind of why I bring up at least for me, was a little shocked to kind of see them still have so many representatives. And Texas Tech has a 3, BYU has a 6, Arizona has a 4. These aren't 1 and 2 seeds that are still left, other than Houston, of course.
Right.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Arizona get by Oregon, but we'll get into that because that was a fun game too.
Yeah, it was. And I think we can wrap it up there with the winners and losers presented by SeatGeek. Don't worry, the March Madness talk isn't going anywhere. We're going to dive into the rest of this first and second round coming up right now. And like we said, we'll jump into now a bunch more of in-depth reaction. We'll go region by region for you guys just to really chop it up here. But we'll start off with the South and the number one team in the South, the Auburn Tigers, are well into the Sweet 16 after defeating Alabama State and Creighton with a matchup against the Michigan Wolverines, who I had going down in the first round to UC San Diego. Oh, so sad they almost pulled it off, lost by 3. They get it done against A&M. Michigan has experience knocking off the SEC here, but they have a much tougher battle now coming up against the number one team in the land in the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, I'm going to get Will to play this audio. I played it for you, Matt, before the Auburn-Creighton game. Then I sent it to you, Jack. After the Alabama State game, Auburn was not happy. And they kind of said, Stephen Pearl and Dylan Cardwell said everything that Jack and I have been preaching, that all of the Auburn fans have been preaching, that they're just, the effort's not there. And this doesn't look like the team that has been the number one overall seed, that earned the number one overall seed in March Madness because of their season. And what they did was they came out against Creighton, and they played the best game they've played since they beat Kentucky in the same arena at the end of February. The only reason Creighton was in that game in the first half, they shot the absolute hell out of the ball. What Stephen Ashworth and those guys were doing, I don't know the exact stats, but like Creighton could not miss in the first half. And Auburn had to play their best game to be down by 2. And then, what do you know, Creighton loses a little bit of that magic in the second half, and Denver Jones and the guys completely shut down them on the defensive end and win the game by 12. And that's the Auburn Tigers that can win it all this year. If they just play like they did in that game against Creighton, they will win the NCAA tournament. And I full-heartedly believe that.
I think you're right. I think we're going to need to see a little bit more out of Janai if we want to end up beating a Duke, a Florida, whoever it is at the end of this road. But you're absolutely right. The way that we stuck in there all game, we had effort, we had energy. Cardwell, Pettiford, CBM hitting 17 points before getting injured. I mean, everybody played really well. The effort was finally there, and yeah, I'm excited. This was the first time I've seen this team play the way we should play since halfway through the SEC season. Even when we were still winning games before we lost to Florida, before we lost to A&M, Bama, when we were winning all those games, we were still barely winning some of them, and it was because of the effort. What we did in Maui, I know Matt loves when we bring up Maui over here, but what we did in Maui, the effort that we brought to that was, if we play like that in this tournament, there's not a team in this country that can beat us.
No, and Dylan Cardwell might have been the best game I've seen him play in his 5 years at Auburn. And then I always go back to this. We've been saying it all year. Guard play wins you in March. And Tahad Pettiford is the type of guard Auburn has not had since Jared Harper and Bryce Brown.
Oh, I was going to hope you were going to say Jared Harper because he is smooth like wine, man.
He's so good. And, oh, man, I don't know if he's going to start calling himself Vino too, but I mean, Tahad Pettiford, I can't say enough good things about Tahad Pettiford.
Going into this game against Michigan, obviously you guys both diehard Auburn fans. Brian, we'll get your reaction, then Jack will jump over to you. One thing, try to keep it different if you guys can to give some perspective here, but one thing you're worried about heading into this Michigan game, and don't tell me you're not worried. Give me one thing that's on your mind, like, holy shit, if Michigan does this, I'm a little scared going into this game, or if this happens, Auburn could be exposed.
It's going to come down to the effort of the front court. Can Dylan Cardwell replicate what he did against Creighton, and can Janai Broome shut down Danny Wolf? You're going to have to deal with Wolf, who beat you with Yale last year, and you're going to have to deal with Vlad Golden. I'm not worried about Michigan's guards. I know they've had some guys come on lately, and then you have Trey Donaldson, old friend, sitting there. But Auburn's guards are better than Michigan's guards. The way Michigan wins that game is if Golden and Wolf completely outplay Broome and Cardwell.
Yeah, they need Broome and Cardwell, especially Cardwell, going to have to stay out of foul trouble. I think that's thing number one. If he's in foul trouble, Janai's not going to be able to stop those 2 7-footers on his own. But Brian, I know you're not worried about the guard play at all for Michigan, nor should you really be. But I saw this coming when the bracket came out, when we saw the seeding. Trey Donaldson gets his revenge game against Auburn, and there's not bad blood there. But seeing what Trey Donaldson has been able to do this season for Michigan, if this game is close down the stretch, I will be crapping my pants if Trey Donaldson has the ball in his hands and he's going to go attempt a game winner, because he has been electric for them this season.
He's been great, but again, the reason he transferred out was because of the guy that we continue to give praise to, Mr. Tahad Pettiford. And I would rather have Tahad Pettiford in crunch time than Trey Donaldson.
You guys mentioned Danny Wolf being the guy that could cause issues as a 7-footer. Who's going to have to guard him, right? I'd figured Janai Broom would be on Golden, or whatever his name is. So who covers Danny Wolf, right? Is Cardwell or Caldwell, whatever his name is, a guy who can cover somebody on the perimeter that can shoot the three well as a 7-footer?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of Chaney Johnson. He is kind of their athletic big to match up there. I'd like to see a lot of I don't know if you can have Johnson, Cardwell, and Broom all on the floor at the same time, because Michigan wants to run, and that's not exactly a lineup that's going to be good in transition for you. But I trust Bruce Pearl to figure out kind of a way to do it. Again, I think the guard mismatch is so great that Auburn can kind of live with Wolf making some shots from the outside if they're playing the way they can play.
I would definitely agree with that. I think we can outscore this team, and that's how we beat them. But to answer your question, Matt, how do we defend that? I would say you probably send Janai out there. He can move a little bit better than Cardwell. Neither of them move that great, but if you want to stretch one of them out to the perimeter, I'm definitely going to take Broom.
For a guy like Danny Wolf, too, who we've seen go coast to coast, one end to the floor to the other. I mean, this guy moves exceptionally for a 7-footer.
And in that case, the coast to coast, that's where I'm firmly with Brian. Chaney Johnson would be the guy there. He's definitely the most athletic of our bigs. Like I said, Cardwell and Broom are not going coast to coast running the floor. They're half-court players.
Yeah. Cardwell's quick if he has to run in a straight line. You can't really put him side to side.
Yeah, side to side could be a little bit of a disaster. But we'll jump to the other game in this region, and that's Ole Miss and Michigan State. I think the favorite coming out of this was Auburn and Michigan State. They were the really two most strong teams. I don't think a lot of people had Ole Miss. Maybe some people had Michigan just because of the fan base and everybody picks them to pick them. But, what are you guys seeing in this Ole Miss-Michigan State game? Based on the way Ole Miss has looked, I think they have a strong shot at winning this game outright.
Yeah, we mentioned it. I mean, the game against North Carolina ended close, but they controlled that. They were up by 20 points midway through the second half, and then
that game should have never been close.
No, and then they killed
Ole Miss let him back in the game. That was a joke.
You could make a real argument that besides Duke, Ole Miss has looked like the best team in this tournament, just the way they've beaten teams.
Yeah.
And maybe since they let UNC get back into that first round game, you can kind of say no, but they've killed both of their teams they've played. And Michigan State isn't exactly, besides Cohen Carr, like this athletically imposing team. And Ole Miss is going to want to drag you into the mud and make you play slow and make it gritty. And I don't know if Jace Richardson and Jaden Akins can play that kind of game. They want to go up and down and run fast, and that's what they did against New Mexico. That's what they did against Bryant. If you got to make them slow it down, Ole Miss has every chance in the world, especially if Sean Padula decides to make some threes, which he hasn't done since the calendar flipped to March.
Yeah, that's another thing I was saying. I was kicking myself over as I was watching this first round. Sean Padula, he's just the kind of guy that I should have been watching during the SEC play going, this kid's going to light it up in March. Because he is. And he's that guy. He says, give me the ball, takes it to the rack, shoots the three. He does everything you want from a point guard. Passes real well. Some white chocolate right there. I love his game. I really do. I think that there's I would not, let me put it this way, I would not be surprised if Ole Miss is a favorite going into this game against Mississippi State. Michigan State.
I think they're 2-point dogs. The line might change, but like Padula, he has made impacts at the end of games, but like in the beginning of games, he's not shooting particularly well. Like if he can put a full game together, this Ole Miss team, I know I said that I wrote them off and said they're not going to win at all, but if their guards decide to make shots, they can go as far as the guards will take them.
Right. I absolutely agree. I couldn't agree more. Ole Miss is a serious threat. And if I'm Auburn, if I come up against them, familiar in the SEC, the whole 9 yards, that's, I don't believe that would be a cakewalk.
Like I said earlier, you want to go 4-0 against a team, it's a tall order.
Jumping over to Michigan State here now, getting to the Sweet 16, which I think everybody predicted just based on Tom Izzo. I mean, did anybody really know about what this team was, what this team's capable of? They just knew they were good, and they know Tom Izzo somehow gets his teams to perform in March. But look, Dick Pitino gave them a run for the money and almost got New Mexico to the Sweet 16 as another 10 seed, and then we really would have had some sense of Cinderella if New Mexico was able to make it to the Sweet 16. Michigan State just kind of proved to be too much for them down the stretch.
Yeah, I guess the loser could have been the Pitino family because they both lost on the second or not second weekend, but second day, second round. I did fall into the New Mexico trap for a second year in a row. Something about Donovan Dent, just I feel like he is the type of guard that could take a team deep in the March, but they just don't have enough. Second year in a row. They just didn't have enough. And maybe if this team had JT Toppin still, they would have beaten Michigan State this year. I haven't been overly impressed with Michigan State. And I guess that's kind of how this whole year has gone because they weren't ranked in the preseason poll. They weren't expected to do much. And all they've done is won a Big Ten that has the second most teams left in the NCAA tournament and won 2 games in March Madness. So I guess I shouldn't be doubting them, but I'm still doubting them.
I am too, Bri. I don't think that they're all that good. I think it's Izzo. I mean, how could you not just look at this team and say Izzo is the conductor that's actually making this train work, making it actually move? There's no reason, given the talent in this Michigan State team, like what they got on that team. No way.
Yeah,
they're not a Final Four team.
Is.
They're not an Elite Eight team.
Well, it's easy for you guys to say that with Auburn staring them down the barrel on the other side. But
I mean,
I agree.
But that's my point. You look at the talent of an Auburn team. If that's the team you want to bring up, like you look at the talent of an Auburn team versus Michigan State team, and I mean, again, might be a little biased, but it's really not close.
Yeah, and I don't want to jump too far ahead because we will talk about Florida UConn, but we did see what a great coach can do with a not so talented squad. So I'm not going to write off Izzo, but I just think the gap is so wide.
And we know for sure that Izzo's got better talent than Hurley. No?
It's a better team. It's a much better team.
It's a better team on Izzo's side.
Yeah. And
I mean, a 2 seed versus an 8 seed, that shouldn't even be a thought, Jack.
I mean, but we're talking about the talent. We're talking about the quality of players, not like the team
are.
success.
The
Like we're
quality of the players
because
on
I'm putting like UConn next to Kansas, where
UConn lost everybody. They lost the big man who went to Portland.
Clingan, they lost the
They lost the dude on Memphis.
Castle, yeah, but they
also
lost Castle. Like
those are some big guys
they got one of the Montverde guys that everybody's been talking about. That team they had some guys come in. I mean, this is a UConn program that just won back-to-back titles. You tell me that they came into year 3 trying to three-peat and they didn't have talent on the team? I find that hard to believe.
He definitely had talent, but compared to Michigan State, I think Michigan State's talent was a lot stronger this year. And we can agree to disagree. We don't have to agree on that. But, yeah, I mean, kind of to your question, UConn did come in with less talent, and that's why they were the 8 seed and kind of botched this whole three-peat run that they were on.
They almost beat the team everyone's considering the favorite to win it all. And we'll get to them again. I'm going to kind of stay on Michigan State, but I guess we kind of just wrapped it up. Like I'm not too – I think if Nelly Jr. Joseph isn't in foul trouble and Azili just hits off his shots, in that game, New Mexico knocks them off. And New Mexico isn't that great. I think Ole Miss is better than New Mexico. Auburn is a whole lot better than New Mexico, and Michigan's a whole lot better than New Mexico. And nothing I saw in that game tells me Michigan State is a Final Four team.
So just, beneficiaries of an easy path to this point.
Yeah.
And you have to beat the teams in front of you. But yeah.
Of course. We'll see. Their toughest test against Ole Miss upcoming this week. But I say we jump over to the next region. We jump over to the East region where we see Duke taking on Arizona, BYU taking on Alabama. How did they get there? Duke beating Baylor and looking like the best team, like you said, Brian, just a little bit ago, in the tournament. Look, it's 2 games. They beat Mount St. Mary's, and they beat a Baylor squad, which I personally, thought was pretty average. They're not this exceptional team, and Duke kind of proved it with a almost, 20-plus point blowout victory in the second round. So Duke looks really good, and to be fair, and I know we'll preview it, I don't think Arizona is this crazy test for them either, but I want to see what you guys think of Duke up to this point.
They're insane. You want to say Florida's the best team, Auburn, Houston, whatever. Duke has looked unbeatable, and it hasn't been close. And good point. The Baylor team, very average Baylor team, 23-point win over them. But dude, who's touching Duke right now? I think they're a shoe-in to the championship.
They look exactly like what UConn looked like last year, where it's just it's easy and they just roll over these teams. And Baylor, I didn't have a great year, and they were very up and down, but they still have Norchad O'Meara. VJ Edgecombe was the newcomer of the year in the Big 12, or maybe freshman of the year. And then Jeremy Roach, who was at Duke, is a revenge game for him, and they pretty much shut him down. So they got guys, and Duke made them look like Mount St. Mary's. It looked like the same game where it's just Cooper Flagg running the point and Conky Nipples hitting shots. Tyrese Proctor can't miss from 3. You got Malawach, I think his name is. I can never pronounce it right. He's a great center. They just have so many guys that can kill you, and they're all going to be NBA players. It's like Auburn, but all these guys are going to play at the next level. And it's super scary. I think right now you have to consider Duke as the clear favorite to win this thing.
Based on 2 games, sure. Again, we just talked about it, and I know Michigan State looked a little bit shaky, but talk about the path. And again, you're 1 seed for a reason, right? You're gonna have an easier path than maybe somebody else. But I just think I know you talk about Baylor, but they're a 9 seed for a reason. I mean, they played in the Big 12, and I thought just were average in the Big 12. So I'm not putting Baylor. I know you said they have guys, revenge game, this, that, and the third, but
would you put
they
Baylor?
Should beat Baylor by 25 points.
Would you put Baylor that far below a UConn, Gonzaga, or a Creighton? See, I don't think so. I think they're right on the level. Gonzaga, no. I put Gonzaga top, but Creighton, Baylor, and UConn are all kind of in the same level for me.
I put Creighton a little better than Baylor. I don't know why I have this weird against Baylor.
I mean, anti-Baylor, but they beat them by 23 points, and no other 1 seed had an easy time winning. I know Auburn won by 12 in the end, but they had to play their best game to win by 12. They were down at half, and then Florida and Houston almost lost their games.
Yeah. There's definitely a scene. I don't know. You're right. Duke has absolutely looked like the best based on what they've had to play and where they're going. And I'm agreeing. I think them coming up against Arizona in a couple days here is we might see the same thing. Duke absolutely can win this game by 15 or 20 points again.
Yeah, you're going to need Caleb Love to drop 40 points.
And then still get help from somebody else.
My guy De La Rosa. Campbell guy, shout out the Fighting Campbells. I know Brock's a listener to the program. We're big Fighting Campbells fans. He hasn't looked great they're going to need him to drop 25 with Caleb Love's 35. And if there's one team Caleb Love's going to be pumped to play against, it's Duke.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I agree. But let's jump down to easy path for Duke. We'll talk about some of the teams who maybe I guess these paths weren't as easy, but BYU knocks off Wisconsin in the 2-point shootout, 91-89. Brian, you kind of were all over BYU. I like BYU a lot, but I just thought the path would be too difficult. And again, I hated that they had to play VCU because I liked VCU a lot, but they beat VCU. They just knock off Wisconsin. Alabama is now. I mean, is this the most battle-tested team in the tournament?
It might be.
BYU.
I think you still have to give that to Auburn.
I was going to say, based on the tournament so far?
Just the tournament so far. I mean,
okay.
VCU, beat Wisconsin, and now have to take on Alabama. I guess if they beat Alabama, maybe they get that award.
Yeah.
Those are some pretty tough games that they're dogging their way through.
And listen, they were the hottest team in basketball, and I think you picked them to win the Big 12 tournament because they were so hot. And then they ran into Houston, and it was just such that conflicting of styles. But like you saw them just beat a shootout or win a shootout with Wisconsin, who likes to get up and down. They beat VCU, who is like Houston light, and now they get Bama in a game. I think the over/under set at like 179. It might end around 210 because it's just going to be up and down action. It's going to be a really fun game to watch. But I like BYU and how they match up. I don't know what the spread is, but this BYU team can score. And if you can score points.
5.5 point spread, Bama's way.
Okay. We'll talk about Bama. Bama hasn't really defended well, and BYU has defended enough. I really like this BYU team. They got so many guys that can kill you, especially from three.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll talk about their opponent, Alabama, who – St. Mary's wasn't incredibly difficult. We talked about them probably going to struggle to score. I was surprised they got past Vanderbilt in the first place, but a bit of a scare against Robert Morris. I thought we really, really were going to see a 15 seed get it done like that we've kind of come accustomed to seeing in the tournament. There's always one, it seemed like. Omaha gave a run with St. John's, and, Robert Morris was right there until, the end of game fouling had to come into play.
They just haven't played defense, and they really haven't had to until that last 7 minutes against Robert Morris, where they finally were like, all right, we should play some defense.
Right. Yeah.
But, it's going to kill them if they don't D up BYU, but this is who Alabama is. They're just going to run quick, and they're going to shoot threes with 25 seconds left in the shot clock, and if they go in, they're going to make it to the Final Four. If they don't go in, they're going to get bounced. And they're really going to have to go in against BYU.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if this finishes a 94-95 kind of game, and whoever gets the last shot wins it.
They just let St. Mary's score 66. That's
St.
Mary's isn't supposed to score.
Robert Morris put up 15 more points than St. Mary's did, and Robert Morris was a 15 seed. So that's just a joke of St. Mary's part.
It's like, if Mark Sears is healthy, if Grant Nelson is healthy, and if Philon is healthy, this team had the chance to win a national championship. But all those guys got to be there, and all those guys got to make their shots. And that's the only way they know how to win. And that will continue to be the reason why I doubt them, and I'm biased against them. But when there's one way how you're going to win, it's tough to win 6 games in a row that exact same way.
Brian, let me ask you this. Duke and Bama face off in the Elite Eight. Who would you rather see go to the Final Four?
In terms of me rooting for an easier opponent for Auburn?
I'm asking you the question.
I think if Houston makes it to the Final Four, they beat Bama. If Duke gets to the Final Four, they're going to the national championship. Honestly, the revenge game against Duke or an Iron Bowl championship, they're both even for me. Although I think Auburn has the same chance to beat both of them because they struggle with Alabama's pace, but we saw them almost beat Duke in Cameron Indoor. So I'm not worried about either matchup as much as I don't know. To answer your question, I don't care.
It was a really long way of not answering my question.
Well, I was trying to get there to an answer. I was thinking out loud, and I just came to the conclusion either one's fine.
And that's the right attitude to have.
wild we see Alabama basketball overtake football. Haven't seen that in a while, but the SEC's full of surprises.
Full of
I
money.
know, yeah, it really is. That's the best way to put it. But I know we kind of did a quick wrap on Arizona, just saying Caleb Love needs to score 40. But yeah, I mean, Brian, you mentioned, I guess it was in the pre-show, you thought Oregon was going to knock them off here. What did Arizona do that you liked to one, where they won the game, and two, would have a shot against the red hot Duke Blue Devils?
Their front court played really well. It shut down Biddle, who, by the way, needs to get some kind of hair implants or transplant. You don't want to be looking like that on the CBS cameras during March Madness. He looks like a 50-year-old man, but he balled out, and Arizona was able to kind of contain him. I think he had like 15 and 15 against Liberty, and then was not as good against Arizona. But it's Caleb Love, and it's those guards just making shots. Like Jackson Selstad played a great game for Oregon, and it really didn't matter. Arizona had this in hand pretty much the whole way, and then Oregon made that run late. But Arizona has the type of offense where they could beat Duke. And again, it's like with Bama, you need to make you need to be perfect to beat this Duke team. And every team left in this region has so many flaws that I don't see how Duke doesn't make it to the Final Four.
Yeah.
I also
picked
think
Akron to
that-
beat Arizona.
I
So,
also,
what do I
Brian,
know?
I think you have a good point there. They all three of these teams have flaws where Duke seems like they're going to make it there. But I also do think that all three of these teams have the firepower that on the right night, any three of them could take down Duke.
Yeah, this region is a lot of fun because the offenses are all elite. But Duke has the elite offense with the second best defense in the country behind Houston.
Yeah, Duke's the clear-cut favorite, and you're right. BYU and Alabama for sure. I haven't seen enough of Arizona to know what they're going to do. I know they have Caleb Love, but I'm just not sold on Alabama Duke's probably the best matchup we would get. The problem is Alabama doesn't play defense, and Duke does play defense. And that's why I just see, whoever Duke faces. I mean, they run through these teams, man.
Yeah, I will say the one thing going for Arizona, which you kind of mentioned there, is they're normally like up on the 2, 3, or sometimes even 1 line. This year they're on the 4. They're flying under the radar, no real expectations. Maybe Caleb Love's actually playing loose. I think he just dropped 30 last night. So no expectations, house money, go try to beat Duke. Maybe it happens.
Yeah, a lot of people instantly counting them out as well. Did we have a line for that game? Is Duke a double-digit favorite? I know we had a 5.5-point line for BYU
Duke.
Alabama.
Duke's an 8.5-point favorite.
Okay, so almost double digits. But
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, it's a big line. Can Arizona cover it? I'm not sure. But yeah, look, like you said, Brian, little expectations. 4 seed. They beat every seed that was lower than them, or higher than them. But we'll see what happens, man. It's going to be interesting. But let's hop over to the West, where Florida and UConn probably had the game of the second round. I'm not sure what other game compared to that one. We see the number 1 seeded Florida Gators take down the UConn Huskies, going for a three-peat. Florida says, not on our watch. We're not getting embarrassed as a 1 seed. They win 77-75 to advance to the Sweet 16. I know it was a close game. There was obviously some emotions running high. UConn has, the special juju of the 3 times. So, are you worried about Florida going forward? This might have been the toughest matchup for any of the 1 seeds, other than, I guess, Houston and Gonzaga.
Yeah, this was a absolute masterclass by Dan Hurley. He put his team in this is why he's won 2 championships in a row. His team had every chance to win this game. I mean, they lost by 2 points. And solo ball, Alex Caravan and Liam McNeely combined for 6 of 26 from 3. None of them made more than 2 threes. If one of those goes in, they win this game. And it can't just get down to making a play on offense, and that's what Walter Clayton did. And he just ripped the heart out of Dan Hurley and UConn.
Yeah, and Clayton's an unbelievable player. He is really a terrific, terrific college player. So I really like what he's doing, and I like the role players on Florida. That's why I picked them to win it all. I still think they're red hot. I love Elijah Martin, who was on that FAU team, who has Final Four experience. I'm not worried about Florida. They just played Dan Hurley and UConn, so they got the job done. All they had to do was get by this game. And I know they have a tough one coming up. We'll get into their opponent in just a second here, but I still like Florida's chances going forward.
Yeah, I mean, Florida still the most dominant team. Duke's giving them a run for their money on that title, but Florida has just been running through people. You got to give Dan Hurley a ton of credit for the way that he coached this game, but also for the way that his guys did not quit at the end of this game. They fought. They were hitting threes. I think the game ended on a made three by UConn.
Yep.
Just not enough time in the game to make the comeback. Phenomenal game. Brian, to your point, this is why he's won the last 2 national championships, and he'll be back. I mean, for better or for worse, his antics are here to stay, and he'll be back.
Yeah, I'm happy you mentioned that garbage time. I guess it really wasn't garbage time, but the clock expired and they'd already lost.
There's no garbage time, Brian. They fought
But
until the buzzer.
it was a McNeely 3, so before that 3, that trio was 5 of 26. But yeah, and Matt, I'm happy you mentioned FAU because we still have 3 of those guys from that team left in this March Madness. We got Vlad Golden, Janelle Davis, and Elijah Martin. And then Nick Boyd was also there. He lost in the first 4 with San Diego State. But
Yeah, but he was still there.
Yeah.
Look, if Dusty May didn't leave, he probably would have been able to keep those guys somewhat together, maybe. I'm not sure. But, he went to Michigan after that run, and, I think FAU basketball program kind of died with him.
Yeah, I watched them in that conference tournament, and it was not pretty.
They're not what they once were. But, you mentioned it. Florida is the team to beat right now out of this region. We can jump into Colorado State and the Crab Five. I love the nickname. I think if we want to be, the podcast of gimmicks, that's the gimmick right there of if there's a 1 seed to get upset right here, can the Crab Five take down the Gators? I don't see why not.
Why not?
It'll be fun. The issue is their best players in the front court. They are going to need Jacoby Gillespie and Rice to really hit some shots here because they almost lost them the game against Colorado State.
Yeah, and I mean, props to Colorado State for getting to where they got to and really, being in position to win that game. I mean, one stop guy made a terrific shot. We can sit here and argue the travel call all day long, but terrific job by Maryland getting the job done in the closing stages of the game. And did they beat their own curse of finally getting out of the first weekend or getting out of the first weekend for the first time in a long time?
Yeah, it was longer than Auburn's drought. It was 2016. And I think they were ranked. I think they would have been a 2 seed the COVID year. They probably would have made it out, but of course you can't do hypotheticals.
Yeah. You can't.
But yeah, and now Willard is looking like the favorite for the Nova job.
Wouldn't hate it. Texas Tech and Arkansas in the bottom of the region, the team that we didn't expect to be there, and really for both, right? I didn't see Texas Tech in the Sweet 16, and I sure as hell didn't have Arkansas there. I didn't have St. John's either, but I didn't have Arkansas either. Calipari takes on, who even is it Buzz Williams, or was he the A&M guy?
He's A&M.
Who the heck is Texas Tech's head coach? How about that for some trivia?
Question.
How about that for some trivia, Brian?
Grant Cashlin?
Yeah, young guy, looks like.
Huh.
Oh, this is the Grant guy you played against in CYO, Matt, right?
No, he coaches. Oh, well, so what happened? It was the Mark Adams guy, but he had a racially insensitive comment.
Oof.
So, yeah, I think they kind of had to let the other guy go because he was racist, and they brought this guy in.
That definitely went under the radar.
Oh.
Totally under the radar. And This team is under the radar. I think this is the most underrated team. I mean, I did not think they would be here in the Sweet 16. And let's be honest, guys, they're pretty poised to advance to the Elite Eight here.
All right. Well, I've always been I shouldn't say always, but I've been a fan of Texas Tech for past year or two, and I've been following this year. They're pretty much known frauds, so I don't really expect them to make a run or anything. But I did have them here based on the somewhat easy schedule to this point. But playing Arkansas, I think that is, they're licking their chops after St. John's goes down.
Yeah, I'm annoyed because when this bracket came out, immediately I put Texas Tech over St. John's, and then I got in my own head saying, "Oh, I said St. John's is a Final Four team, an Elite Eight team. In the middle of the season, I have to pick St. John's." So yeah, I'm annoyed with myself for not trusting JT Toppin and Texas Tech to make it to the Elite Eight in this region, and I think they have a shot to knock off Florida if Florida gets by the Crab Five. JT Toppin's a really good player, and he can take over March.
Yeah, and it was just it feels like yesterday, but they were the team that played Virginia the national title, and didn't that game go to overtime? So I mean, this is a team that's seen recent success in the tournament.
Auburn would have destroyed that team.
Who, Texas Tech?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah,
We were the best team that year.
it's a shame.
Such a
Who was the
shame.
guy they had that was like the 3-point guy?
Bryce Brown.
Yeah, maybe it was Bryce Brown.
Are you talking about
You know,
Auburn?
Auburn or Tech?
Yeah, on Auburn.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Auburn had
Bryce-
Bryce Brown and Jared Harper.
Jared
Yeah.
Harper.
Yeah, Bryce Brown. Yeah, look, they were a spectacular team. Kyle Guy, DeAndre Hunter, and
Ty Jerome.
Ty Jerome.
Don't get me started, Matt.
Just a little too much that year. But yeah, look, dude, Texas Tech's got a big shot against Arkansas. Do you guys see Arkansas winning this game though?
There's a realm of possibility with the way I made Cal my winner of the week for a reason. I think that he is coaching his butt off right now. So yes, I do think that there's a chance that Arkansas can win this game. Especially if they're being ran point guard by your boy Janelle Davis, John L, not Janelle. Sorry, it's a girl's name, but that's your boy from FAU right there. He's leading them, him, Cal, and a very athletic front court. So shout out Arkansas, they can do it.
Yeah, for sure. Brian, I'll ask you, Jack, you can jump in as well. Texas Tech, better or worse than St. John's?
Well, I had Texas Tech beating St. John's in my bracket, and they're also in the Sweet 16, and St. John's isn't. So I guess I have to give it to Texas Tech here.
Right, but I'm just talking about roster to roster here.
I'm going to go with the star power of JT Toppin and give you Texas Tech.
I agree. I think part of the St. John's had such a good year was just because Rick Pitino knows how to coach a team and will his team to 10 more wins than they should have.
Yeah, and the Big East was also pretty bad. So I'll give you that. But let's look at their path, right? Knocked off UNC Wilmington, which only beat them by 10 points. So whatever. And then handle business against Drake, right? We saw Drake, maybe be the Cinderella-esque team that we all hope they could be. Not a problem for Texas Tech, but yeah, look, Arkansas has all the talent in the world playing in a really tough conference. I wouldn't doubt it if Arkansas wins it, but I like Texas Tech flying under the radar, having the talent that they have, and they've made the Final Four and championship run before, and within the last decade. So we'll see what they have up their sleeve here.
Yeah, real quick on Drake. Ben McCollum is taking the Iowa job. And with Fran McCaffery getting fired, their best center, Owen Freeman, has entered the transfer portal, and he's reportedly visiting Auburn. Averages 6 a game, so maybe a little Janai Broom replacement there.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, and is that now the downfall of Drake?
Yes. I think they survived getting rid of DeVries because they brought in McCollum. I don't know if they're going to be able to bridge it again.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, and losing the coach as well. I mean, that's pretty huge.
Yeah, I'd like to see Bradley's a good program down there. I'd like to see Bradley get some cracks at some tournaments.
Yeah, they have been very respectable. Really, that 1A 1B team to Drake in the tour or in that what's that, the Ohio Valley,
Missouri Valley.
Missouri Valley. There we go. I knew a valley was in there, but
I get them mixed up
yeah,
all the time.
it's pretty easy to. But yeah, no, we'll see what happens as that one rolls on. I think the biggest L of the region though is St. John's kind of bombing their way out of the tournament as a 2 seed, highest seed they've been in a while, and just really bombed their way out. People I think expected them to handle Arkansas, but couldn't get it done.
2 teams from Queens can't win a championship in the same year. It's fine.
Yeah, I guess so. We'll see what happens. Baseball
Go
season
Mets.
hasn't started yet. All right, we'll hit the final region now, the Midwest region, where Jack just said off camera, the chalkiest region of the tournament so far, and we see Houston almost go down to Gonzaga, but Gonzaga, I guess, just not enough late. What you guys see in this one that might worry you about Houston going forward?
I am sad.
Why?
That's it.
I don't know. I was so high on Gonzaga making a run on continuing this streak. And they were right there. I mean, they weren't right there because they were down for most of this game. But then they came back. They got it to 3. And then Khalif Battle just gets eaten alive on a 3-point attempt. It was the worst. I don't know. You have Mark Few. I guess they didn't have a timeout, but you got to drop a better play than that. Even Graham Ike, get him an open look because they're not going to guard him for 3. I was sad watching this game. I had so much faith in Gonzaga, and Houston looked good. They should have won this game, and they did. And I think they're the favorite to win this region. Although Matt's Kentucky pick is looking pretty good too.
Yeah, I wanted to wait until we shed some light on that so we can talk about the woes before we talk about the highs. And it is the McNeese State Cowboys. Their mini 2-year dynasty seemingly will come to an end after a 76-62 loss at the hands of the Purdue Boilermakers. We know Will Wade accepted the job. He did a lot to bring players to McNeese. They had a guy who was on Providence, got some kind of gun charge, and then went to McNeese because Will Wade gave him a shot. Who was that? He got injured this year too with a knee injury. He was on Providence. Either way, he dropped like 20 points a game in 2 games and then hurt his knee. Would not be surprised if we see that guy follow Will Wade over there to NC State. So stick around. I feel like we got to say the guy's name now.
Could it have been Bryce Hopkins?
No, it was not Bryce Hopkins. Alan Breed.
Okay, yeah, that sounds familiar.
Now. Yeah, so he'll have, I think, 2 years of eligibility left because he obviously got caught up with some stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if Will Wade go there. But either way, like I said, McNeese is done. They'll probably fall apart as a team. We'll probably see Texas A&M Corpus Christi take back the reins of the Southland Conference, if I had to take a guess.
Yeah, the return of the Islanders. I'm going to say something here, and it may be met with criticism. I did not like the Amir Khan story arc. I thought they shoved it in our face too much. I thought it was a joke that a player on McNeese tore his jersey, and he went the student manager to get him a new jersey. A little too big for his head there. I didn't love the whole getting it shoved in my face on social media.
Yeah, the walkout to the song was sick. I thought that was cool. That deserved the hype it got. But the dragging of it out, I thought was annoying. But I'm happy that it bothered you because it serves you right after we had to sit here with OMG, McDonald's gimmick, this, that, and the third for an entire summer. This was 3 weeks, Brian. We had to do it for an entire summer. So, no, I'm glad that bothered you.
Yeah, Brian, Matt's right. You have no room to stand on after your OMG, gay, grimace, Mets, whatever the hell was going on last season.
It was ridiculous. I'm shocked you bring that up.
No, I don't know. When he didn't do his job as a student manager, that's kind of where I was like, all right, this guy's a little too big for his head. What does he do here? He just hold a boombox?
It's easy to get to your head, man, when everybody's hyping you up, and that's kind of what we saw here, I think.
Yeah, I mean, can you really blame him? Team basketball manager to get an NIL deal. I mean, dude, live it up while you can. I mean, like Matt said,
Yeah.
this was 3 weeks long. He got his spotlight for 3 weeks. McNeese is eliminated. He's never going to get brought up again. You know, he's going to have to go make his own stories now. So
That's it.
yeah,
That's about all we'll get from that guy.
soak it up while you can.
I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm just annoyed because we didn't get any actual Cinderella players. We had the biggest Cinderella story was a team manager who didn't do his job as a team manager.
And I can understand the distraction from, the actual McNeese team. They did put a smacking on Clemson. I know that game ended pretty close, but they were smacking them around for most of that game. And you got to give them credit for that, especially after us thinking they were going to go far last year and had a first game exit. So McNeese, it's a dub on the year.
Yeah, they get the win. And poor start to this Purdue game. They came out flat. Maybe it was because it was the early game. Maybe if they had the 7 o'clock time slot, would have a little bit more energy. But maybe they were celebrating too much the night before. Who knows? But yeah, just came out flat. And when you're the Cinderella team, you need to be pressing the gas at all times. And Purdue's just too good of a team to come out flat and think you're going to stick around.
Yeah, is it time to start respecting Matt Painter and Purdue again? Because they were always an auto fade after getting upset all those years in a row. And now we see them in the Natty and I'm back in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, they haven't won, though.
I'm not ready yet. I mean, they had Edie last year. That's a huge reason why they were there. And then this year, they still have a first-team All-American in Braden Smith. And I don't think they get past – they've had a good run so far, but – I think it's been the easiest path so far. High Point and then McNeese. That's a 13-12.
Extremely easy path. And hold on, let's be fair. They're arguably chance to win it all when they probably should have won it all when they had Jaden Ivey and co. They lost to St. Peter's.
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying.
That's right. They were that team.
Is it time to
Jaden Ivey and everybody else that was on
against
that team.
Dougie McBuckets?
Yeah, so I mean,
but have we gotten over
is he a good coach? He's a fine coach. But what
2 years in a row?
What pedestal do you want to put him on, Brian? He lost in the title game and then beat a 13 and a 12 seed, and you're like, let's give him his flowers?
Yes. No, I'm saying, is it time to give him respect to stop fading him to get upset by a 14 or a 15 every year? Because that's what I've been doing pretty much in my brackets every year, and this is the second year in a row they've been in the second weekend.
Yeah, I definitely struggled to pick Purdue here, but they got it done on a pretty easy path.
Yeah, I might have to stop letting you convince me about some of these mid-major teams actually being good, Brian. High Point was just not good. They were not good.
They were good. I think High Point would have beaten.
They weren't.
I think High Point would have beaten A&M if you put them in that game. I think there's some fours. The High Point coach said Purdue was the 4 we didn't want to say. I think if you put them on A&M and A&M has a hard time scoring, keeping up with them, High Point probably upsets them there.
Yeah, again, we'll see. They have the easy path into an absolute, Goliath of a Houston team that they're going to have to try and go up against. I think Houston has an easier game against Purdue than they did against Gonzaga. That's what I think of Purdue.
I second that.
I would agree.
Yeah, so okay, got to the Sweet 16. I'm not, if he wants to knock off Houston and then knock off a Kentucky team, then sure, I'll give him his flowers.
I will definitely give him his flowers after that. I'll give him his flowers if he can beat Houston.
Yeah.
I think all I'm saying is that I think I'm back to the point where I'm not going to fade him in the first game every year.
Yeah, again, I don't know. Who are some of the other 13s that you could have lobbed in there?
Grand Canyon got smacked by Maryland.
It was just not a good year for mid-majors, man.
Yeah, Yale really didn't compete too much with A&M.
Yale could have given Purdue a problem.
Yeah, I think if you put games. I think if you put High Point against A&M and Yale against Purdue, that might be 2 upsets.
That's a problem.
Yeah, Montana didn't give Wisconsin a run for their money either. Didn't you say all of the 3 seeds were going to get upset by the 14 seeds, Brian. Wasn't that your hot take heading into the
Yeah, that
tournament?
was my bold prediction. But Money Williams also just shed a brick. I think he had 0 points in that Montana-Wisconsin game. And Akron did not show up. Yeah, it was a bad year for mid-majors, all right.
Oh, I briefly brought up Kentucky. I got ripped on having Kentucky in my Final Four, and they are now 2 wins away from completing that task at hand. They just knocked off Illinois. Take on a Tennessee team who just beat UCLA. I don't think Tennessee's path was all that incredibly hard. I think Kentucky's path was maybe a little bit harder than Tennessee's. Just because of Illinois, I think Wofford sucks and UCLA sucks. But yeah, Kentucky and Tennessee, and Kentucky scored a basketball. I like what they're doing under Mark Pope in his first year.
Tega always a star, and Kobe Bryant couldn't miss against Illinois. If they could make a Final Four run, they feasibly could. But Tennessee's also looking really good. It's going to be a fun game.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
it goes back to what Jack was talking about, the 3-0 and the 4-0. Kentucky has beaten Tennessee twice this year. Once on the road, once at home. So not only are they familiar, they're familiar with beating this team. This exact team, they've done it already twice. So it's right there, staring right there at the barrel. They got a shot. They got a shot. I think Kentucky's offense is going to overpower Tennessee's offense. It's just if Kentucky can play just a little bit of defense, I think they get it done again.
Yeah,
That's a bad matchup for Tennessee.
if Lamont Butler can shut down Zakai Ziegler and just stay in front of him, that takes away half of Tennessee's offense, and
Right.
Kentucky can win that game.
Yeah. So that's going to be a good one. That kind of wraps us up here, I guess, for everything we have going on and everything we're talking about. I don't know what type of predictions we want to give out because we still have a lot to get to, but I guess instead of making predictions, we can talk about what game you're looking forward to most. It's going to be hard for you guys to not say Auburn. But yeah, what game, I guess, other than Auburn, would you be looking forward to in these Sweet 16 games?
It's definitely
BYU,
going to be.
Bama.
That should be a high-scoring, fun game. For me, it's definitely Kentucky and Tennessee, being the SEC homer around here. Either of those teams can win that game. Either of those teams can go beat Houston and make a Final Four run. So I think that'll be an awesome matchup come this weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Florida and Maryland. I think the Crab 5 versus Clayton is going to be a fun one, and we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be, maybe not a shootout, but it could be another close game. But who knows, man? These teams get hot and cold out of nowhere. We have 3 days off, until we maybe 4 days. I don't know where the Thursday and Friday games fall, but yeah, we'll see what happens. And the only other thing I had is, I wish the Thursday night game didn't start at 10 o'clock. There's a game that starts at 10:09 expected tip, which probably will be a little later than 10:09.
No, they do this
Maybe
every
like
year.
a
It's
10:20
brutal.
tip on a Thursday night. I can't even watch. The game's going to end at almost 1 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast.
Yeah, I think they
Where-
threw Arkansas and Tech in that, so at least it's not one of the really good ones. But that could be a fun game. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, it's a Sweet 16. They're all you want to watch all the games.
Definitely. Yeah, that's the West Coast, man. I hate that we're always appealing to it now.
Yeah, it does suck, but I guess it'll get a little better for the Elite Eight, and that'll be this weekend. But if you guys got nothing else, I don't have anything else. I think that's all the time we have. It's been a long one. It's been a good one. Brian, you want to update the people of the standings before we hop off here? I know you do.
yeah, real quick, just to give some shout outs to some people in our poll because they are leading it right now. We got Tim Moan in first place, our Auburn guy. Gabby Brault in second, Rose's best friend. Kenneth St. Thomas in third, worked with me down for the Washington Commanders for a season. Tommy Capriotti in fourth, somehow, some way. Our guy Russ in fifth. And then Jack is in 11th, but he is the first out of the View staff right now.
Yeah, my bracket was a disaster after the first couple of rounds. My path to greatness is Kentucky basketball. If Kentucky makes a national championship and that my Final Four is still alive. If Kentucky makes a national championship and it's against Florida, I have a shot.
Yeah, my brackets, it's looking good. It's not looking great, but I still got a lot of the teams in there. My big wrinkle, I've got Bama beating Duke for a Final Four spot. So if that ends up happening, and then Auburn makes their way to a title dub, I think I got some money coming my way.
Ryan, where are you at in the mix?
I'm in 46th. If Auburn wins, I'll finish respectably like 17th, maybe.
This is why I hate that we're like the bracketology guys, is because we look too far in depth into the teams all year long, and we like fall in love with these like outcomes that really aren't realistic, but like we just think we know the team, and maybe sometimes to an extent, like, you know, we do know the teams. I mean, my first round, I got killed on games. UC San Diego loses by 3. Yale was in it. You know, I picked Liberty last second because I fell in love with the little write-up. It is a lot of bad stuff, but I'm trying to think of some of the other ones where
I do still have
Vanderbilt loses by 3 after kind of controlling that entire game against St. Mary's. Missouri loses to Drake after Drake frauds every year until this year. Kansas, fucking first 1 seed since 05 when they did it again. Like, it's or number 1 preseason. It's nuts.
Yeah, I still have 7 Elite 8 teams left, I believe. 6.
Yeah,
So
like, to be fair, I had St. John's losing to the second round as well. It just wasn't to Arkansas.
Yeah. If BYU can get by Bama and my Final Four besides Gonzaga happens, I'll finish respectable.
Yeah. Kentucky's my saving grace now to pick up a respectable finish is a nice way to put it.
Make the cut.
Make the cut.
This upcoming weekend's the big one. The round of 16 in the Elite Eight. That's where, you know, wins become losses.
Oh, yeah. And we'll see it this weekend. That's all I got. I'll catch you guys in the midweek show Thursday morning. Make sure you tune in. We'll have the entire Sweet 16 breakdown preview, and then we'll dive into some Elite 8 predictions as well. So we'll see you guys in the next one. It's March Madness. We have only a couple more March Madness shows until we get into the real fun part of the year. So baseball season around the corner, too. We'll have some fun stuff in the middle of the week for that, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace!
Yeah, baseball preview on Thursday as well with our guy Nick. Let's go Mets.
It's not good, Mets.
War Eagle.